What is going on, everyone? Outside of Preston finally getting his audio last minute, we are here for another Unblinded, Real Raw. And for all of you that are tuning in, wonder like, why am I here? And even for some of them who are going to be participating, like, what am I doing? Let's like briefly go over it. For the first 30 minutes, we're going to be having the opportunity to get to know, build rapport, and showing the power of the formula. And then for the final 30 minutes, we're going to transition into what's known as an influence offer. We're going to have two amazing contestants, which I will let Vivian introduce, display that influence is a superpower. It's present here, and here at Unblinded is where you learn it. And I'm excited to kick it all off, so I'm going to switch seats as Mr. Callagy takes it away.
Yes, so we are on location for the first time ever for the Real Raw. Actually, not true. Half of the Real Raw yesterday was. We are at Operation Underground Railroad's headquarters in Utah. This has been an incredible day, humbling, soul-cracking, utterly unbelievable. What children in this world endure and the heroes of Operation Underground Railroad create, and what they endure, not only in their physical safety, but the emotional trauma that they put themselves through to go undercover to save lives and futures. So that is present for me. And yeah, here at the Influence Off and the Unblinded Real Raw, what's at stake is people. What's at stake is vision coming from our mind and our heart into reality. Because without the superpower of influence, either everything happens, kind of something happens, a little happens, or nothing happens, compounded over time. So we're here to teach it, share it, enjoy, have fun, connect deeply, and be on our hearts. And with that said, Vivian, you always bring it. Who do we got today? I know we have incredible and unbelievable people, including somebody I'm on the board of trustees of, and somebody I'm physically in the building of Operation Underground Railroad with, and three incredible judges. So first, our participants, Vivian, and by the way, how are you?
I'm fabulous. I was just about to say that Kirk Adams, as your first contestant, is here, and he also gives and contributes to the Operation Underground Railroad, but you already knew that. He became blind at the age of 5 when his retina became detached, and he went to school for the blind. He's now the president and CEO of the American Foundation for the Blind and former president of Lighthouse for the Blind. He graduated with a master's degree in nonprofit for leadership and contributes to many causes. He's also proud to be married for 34 years and has 2 wonderful children. So welcome, Kirk Adams.
The one and only Kirk Adams. How are you, sir?
Fabulous, fabulous.
Well, Kirk, I am
great to be with you. And I've heard from this morning's huddle, you till today, I think 10 hours have passed by, and I know you've had an amazing day in Utah.
Yeah, well, I appreciate that, Kirk. And so, what's heavy on your heart, and what is present, and why is it important? The message and the world and the space that you are working in.
Well, what's heavy on my heart is just tracing all of the dynamics that are so present in our world right now, just back to basic humanity. And Operation Underground Railroad is about humanity, about everyone's right to thrive as a human being and be supported and to develop unfettered in a healthy way. My perspective is through blindness, as I've lived as a blind person and experienced the barriers there. And as a blind person, I've experienced systemic oppression. I've also experienced my white privilege as a white man, and I've also had the intersectionality with racism. I'm part of a biracial family. My children are African American, and 21 years ago, when my son Tyler was about to start middle school and start walking to school, I took him out in the backyard and had that conversation that so many parents have had with African American children for centuries. And I said, you're going to start walking to school, and I want you to know what to do if you're stopped by a police officer. And you need to drop whatever's in your hands. If it's your cell phone and it breaks, don't worry about it. Keep your hands open. Don't reach for your pocket. Don't reach for your backpack. Don't turn your back, and never run. So, that broke my heart 21 years ago. It still does. And so as we look at the Me Too movement and Underground Railroad and systemic racism and oppression of people with disabilities, it all springs from the need for us to treat each other as human beings and to help each other unfold our journeys as human beings and to support one another. So that's what I'm thinking about.
Kirk, thank you for that beautiful share and for this mission. And I'm sure you'll drop in a little bit into the unbelievable rate of unemployment for the blind not being shifted despite legal changes, technology changes, and what you're up to. And I would be remiss in light of your share. I happen to be, again, in the offices of OUR, and they just put me in a room, which is beautiful and incredible. And as we walked in, our team pointed out that there's a giant painting of, I believe it's Abraham Lincoln. And so I will turn around, and as you share that, could anybody see that? Jennelle, is that present? Vivian, is that present?
Yes, it is.
Yeah. So, thinking that we had to fight a war and brothers killing brothers over the idea of maintaining, and I understand that the Civil War is more complex than merely slavery, but that was certainly, one of the issues at the absolute epicenter of what drove it. And so that's incredible to think that those dynamics were present and that we're still dealing with such, challenges of systemic racism. And I always say this in case it's the first time you're hearing me speak on this issue. I always think things are much more complex than we at first let on. And Malcolm Gladwell's brilliant work, Talking to Strangers, and Blink discuss the even more complex dynamics that go into the issues of otherness and systemic bias that exists in Harvard studies, as Harvard studies demonstrate, levels of systemic bias that are rooted in people that are white and Black, and even and how do you solve for these challenges? Because they result in death and murder and crazy things happening. So we have a lot of work to do. And Kirk, thank you for your very unique and beautiful perspective. Yeah. And Vivian, so lots going on. Sometimes the Real Raw is a little bit lighter. Sometimes it's not. We'll see where we end. And if any dynamics of fun energy peek their way through, but it doesn't get lighter.
It doesn't get lighter. I was just about to say, complete more human oppression ahead. Here we go.
Yeah.
We have Jennelle Gordon,
Please.
Executive Director at Beyond Freedom, a survivor-run nonprofit which helps women build their lives once freed from sex trafficking through holistic modalities and other educational tools. Through her spiritual studies and yogic practices, she healed herself from unresolved trauma and developed Dance Om, an integrative form of dance therapy designed to relinquish women from societal constraints on their sexuality. And through this momentum on social media, she caught the attention of the one and only Tony Robbins. And Jennelle serves as the voice of the vulnerable and exploited. Through her work, she helps other women feel empowered. She is an inspiration for all of us women as a leader, speaker, and educator. So welcome, Jennelle.
Thank you so much for having me, Vivian and Sean and the team, the Unblinded team.
Well, Jennelle, thank you. And it's your story has touched many hearts. It is overwhelming, and even some of the things that you were sharing today that you have endured, experienced, seen, I think speaks to your incredibly unique perspective. The depth of what you've overcome. And I think it also, Jennelle, speaks to the complexity of life. And if you wouldn't mind sharing from your heart, there's the idea that folks who are sex trafficked are people that are kidnapped and thrown into a van, as you beautifully shared today, and they certainly are. But there's an entire other world of much greater complexity that speaks into the issues of power dynamics, leverage, and the dark side, the anti-integrity-based influence world. Because influence is a superpower, but it's integrity-based influence that is a superpower for good. But as people like, Harvey Weinstein, and other incredible incredibly horrific dynamics that we've seen from so many would demonstrate the darkness, the dark side of that power. So would you mind maybe, taking,
Yeah.
a minute or two to share from your heart?
Yes. And I think you were also referring to Jeffrey Epstein as what we had talked about in the van. Yes. So I believe it all comes back to what Kirk said. And I myself am not white privileged. I was the antithesis of that. I am African-American as well. I'm North African and my son is West African. And growing up without those things and having to have that talk with my son when he was just, a couple of years ago, when he was 3, 4, about why he does look different than the kids he goes to school with in Newport Beach. It's something very, very sobering, but it's the world we live in. And I love what you said, Sean, about we have to solve this. We have to solve these challenges. So if we fixate more on the problem, we'll get more of the problem. If we fixate on the solution, we will be the solution. And Beyond Freedom, my nonprofit, is all about solution-based answers to really rehabilitate. So as you were saying in closing about the master manipulation and influencing, essentially that's what the world of human trafficking is. It's a very high profit margin business where you have a reusable product and you are essentially manipulating or training, as you would your business employees, how to have that same kind of manipulation so that they can produce more money from their clients. And so it's interesting to understand that the power of influence is a dynamic that can be used for evil or for good. And in my case, so desperate to have all my 6 basic human needs met, the ones I never had growing up in the system, growing up impoverished, it was like crack to me to have these needs met. And so I learned very quickly how to influence people so that I didn't get beat up, so that I didn't get killed, or so that I could make my quota. And so knowing now that survivors can be easily manipulated because they're just getting their needs met the same way you and I are. I think if we look at it from that perspective, we understand that this is a systematic problem. If you want to talk about a pandemic, let's talk about the pandemic of human trafficking. That is a $150 billion global industry that's happening in your backyard too. So that's kind of what I say.
Thank you, Jennelle. And again, I am so sorry for all that you've endured, that Kirk has endured, that everyone has endured in this world, empathetically. And from our heart at Unblinded to the plight of humanity. We talk about money, time, magic, and there's certainly plenty of magic, but there's also what we have to overcome. And we talk about crushing fear and distortion. And there's much work to be done in crushing fear and distortion as well. And I share this. As I was listening to you speak today, as I was listening to the folks at OUR share, what was exploding in my heart, my stomach, my nervous system is for the desperate need of humanity to find healthy, to gravitate, not find, because they're obvious, they're there, to gravitate towards the healthier ways of making ourselves feel differently. And I'm an imperfect person for sure. At the same time, I couldn't advocate more intensely assessing, weighing what it is that makes you feel good. So is it smoking, gambling, drinking, pornography, women, conquest, men, conquest, like these spaces that hold the ability to meet our 6 human needs, as you said, they could be met in a very limited short run way in those paradigms, or like jumping in the ocean when it's 50 degrees, sitting and watching a happy movie, listening to personal development material, doing jumping jacks, doing push-ups, giving, contributing, going to an old age home, writing a check to a charity, like all of these things, if these are the conditioned ways, the positive vibrational, it comes down to me this, there's positive vibrational ways for us to shift how we feel, negative vibrational ways to shift how we feel. And if our conditioning can be rooted there, then we're on the right track for ourselves and overall humanity. But also share this, even within the personal development space, and I hold no judgment. I hold just like let's gravitate towards it. there's ways that we can confuse ourselves. I'm sure I can too, all of us, to be engaged in things that are actually more negative vibrational, that actually even confuse us and feel positive vibrational for the moment, that we can rationalize. One of my dearest friends in the world said, was actually quoting one of the great philosophers that said, human beings can rationalize anything, anything. So at the outer edges of all this, there's great complexity, but the center of it, there's no complexity in harming people, in harming children, in harming adults, in controlling, in stealing, in beating, in threatening. All of these things are objectively wrong societally. And so much when people, and I'm like, I've never said any of this, I'm blind and I'm going for it. When you walk into a strip club, that's what you're walking into. So I'm holding no moral judgment. I'm holding practical judgment. And Jennelle, tell me if I'm wrong. These are places that have oppression. They have harm. They have manipulation. They have negative vibrational dynamics occurring, the objectification of people. And so, Jennelle, just maybe 60 seconds. Am I off? Am I overstating? Or what say you?
You're absolutely correct. When you walk into a strip club thinking that you're going to take your son or your buddies in for a bachelor party, you are contributing to human trafficking, period. There are, I would say, 80 to 90% of the women in there are there against their will. So absolutely correct.
Yeah, well, thank you. And I'm not in a soapbox. I'm not trying to make anybody wrong, but we're also not here at Unblinded just to sit in this space. I have friends that, will go to strip clubs. I'm like, how could you possibly, I'm not morally judging it, but how could you disconnect from the reality of what's happening there? Like what's happening to people, how you're supporting folks that have been addicted to horrific things, are being faced with threats and violence and this horrific aspects of vibration. Like just say like strip club, does it feel good or bad? Like narcotics, like cocaine, does it feel good or bad? Like we know what these things are, and our supporting ourselves first and others and gravitating towards positive vibrational things. So Jennelle, thank you for being here and for, I think listen, I don't know you completely at all. I know aspects of your story. We've met. I appreciate your journey very much. And I think at the very least, you represent something, you said it, that's really complicated to talk about. And it's really uncomfortable to talk about. But that's we all know sex trafficking is bad, but to say going to a strip club is bad is much more controversial. So it's easy to say, don't traffic children. It's a lot more complicated to say, don't go to strip clubs. So thank you for standing in that gap.
Thank you.
Yeah, awesome. So Vivian, I think our judges may be like, whoa, this is a lot today. But thank you, your judges.
You're right, though. You can't normalize bad behavior in whatever package it comes into. So I'm very happy that we have a forum where you do get a chance to showcase people who have a lot of things to share. That's an important conversation that we should all be having. So thank you. Yes, judge number 1 is Liran Hirschkorn, an online marketer for over 12 years. In 2014, after growing and selling an internet life insurance agency, she decided to get involved in e-commerce and selling on Amazon. She started 3 e-commerce brands that sold for millions of dollars on Amazon. Oh. And she founded, Incrementum Digital. I think I said that right. Incrementum Digital, which helps Amazon sellers manage their advertising on Amazon. I guess you'll correct me. And today, Liran is a thought leader and a speaker on marketing and selling on Amazon. So welcome, Liran.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. And I haven't become a she quite yet. But thank you. And I'll just say thank you for having me on. And this conversation is more important than any other conversation we could be having about online marketing. So I'm happy to be here and participate.
Yeah. Liran, thank you so much for being here. By the way, where are you physically today?
I'm in New York, so Long Island.
Cool. Awesome. And I think though, what's at stake, Liran, and see if you agree or not, is that you are a master at influence, and you're a master at figuring out how to get messaging across, how to move people to action. And that is the critical power that gets us to solve for problems when it's applied in the right direction. So your genius and presence here is greatly needed and appreciated.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. I'll share my quick message to a little bit of what Kirk said. I think there's obviously a lot going on in the world, and I think a lot of us want to change other people's opinion or other people's minds about certain things that are racism, right, and things that are happening that we don't want to see happening in the world. And I really think it comes down to not change the world, but change yourself, right? And at every moment, influence and significance doesn't come from how many followers you have. If you have 10,000 followers or 1,000 followers, I think to me it comes with how you treat and interact with every single moment in your life. That person behind the cash register who is like a byproduct almost of what you're trying to do, which is cash out. To me, that's true influencing, treating every single person and being able to add value in every single situation, and not looking for the sort of external sort of pat on the back. Knowing yourself that you're adding value in every situation.
Oh, Laurent, that is phenomenal. Much appreciated. And again, thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Yeah. And Vivian, we have
Preston Brown, an entrepreneur, family, and business coach with a purpose to develop and improve businesses. His background in economics and psychology makes him understand business environments, people, and finding solutions to any problems they may face. Welcome, Preston.
Preston, how are you, brother?
I'm great, man. How are you guys doing?
We're doing
amazing to be on here.
Yeah, thanks so much for being here today.
It's a privilege.
Yeah, and are we going to be seeing each other in a few weeks in Florida?
Absolutely. I can't wait. I miss the environment so much. I'll have a big hug for you if you're not too worried about the social distancing thing.
We will definitely hug, and we will, I had the privilege of seeing Preston at Tony Robbins' home, Tony and Sage's home, coming up in a few weeks for a 3-day event over there. And yeah, I'm looking forward to it, brother.
Same here, man.
Yeah, and I also say this, that Preston did such a beautiful job at Business Mastery, and we met through the Tony Robbins World. We're both lions in that organization. And Preston and I first met at Business Mastery, where there was like a fun, dynamic, complicated competition and game going for different charitable causes. And him and Fernando were like in like a tug of war arm wrestling match. And we're all like hanging out like, at a party on the deck. So it was a very interesting initial meeting. And then we sat together in Sun Valley for a bit. And you are truly a person of incredible integrity and heart, and I'm thankful for you being here.
Well, I feel the same way about you, brother. Thanks for having me on.
Well, thank you. Yeah. And Vivian, last but certainly not least,
we have Paz Avivi. For over 10 years, Paz Avivi has been studying and implementing success principles and works with high-performing individuals and corporate teams. Paz teaches these individuals Bob Proctor's proven methodology to spark exponential change in their performance and results, helping them to be the best at what they do and multiply their influence, impact, and income. Welcome, Paz.
Thank you so much. It's amazing to be here. I'm very excited to be here. I love this group.
Excited to have you, and welcome. And Paz, where are you coming from today?
Actually, now I'm in Mexico now. I've been here for the last 7 months, writing my book and working on some stuff. Yeah, with COVID, I just got stuck here, and yeah, so I cannot wait to go back to the States. I think I'm gonna be also in Texas in August with I think it's a UPW or Date with Destiny. I don't remember exactly what kind of event.
Yeah, I think it's UPWs. That's
yeah.
awesome.
So I'm just right in there. Just I cannot wait. All of us know the energy with Tony's event, so cannot wait to go back there.
Well, Paz, I'm looking forward to encountering you there. And sure. I would also ask you this: where in Mexico are you?
In Playa del Carmen right now.
Oh my goodness!
Nice.
Amazing. And I will level one listen, and this is what not to do on the Real Raw, but I'm only sharing a minute to give context. I was in Playa just a few months ago. So
Oh, really?
yeah, a gentleman was a lion in the Tony world. Pat Melson had a beautiful home on the beach down there, had some folks down. Jonathan Clark, who's another person from the Tony world, was over there, and we're all hanging out and connecting. So it's a beautiful place that you're calling home right now, and I hope you remain happy and safe.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, definitely. Thank you so much.
All right, thanks, Paz. All right, so that's the first section. In case you're like, hey, let's get going. Like we have been going, and what we do here at The Real Raw is we connect, we chat, we share, we get to know each other. Like we're just hanging out in the living room or at a lunch table or dinner table, and we're connecting. And that's what it looks like. We're acknowledging, we're sharing from our hearts, and building community, ecosystem, and relationship. And Vivian, like, certainly would be remiss not to share that we have the one and only Mr. Get Up and Grow. We have the person who is teaching people to grow through what they go through. Trainer in the Tony Robbins world, successful entrepreneur, coach, trainer, real estate success, the one and only Mr. Tony Rodriguez. Tony, how are you, brother?
Hey,
He's
I'm
also
doing
a
great, brother.
beekeeper and has eggs.
And organic eggs and like a farm and like cool stuff like that. Tony, how are you?
Always keeping it interesting for sure. I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on here. Awesome that you guys are over in Utah, and Paz, not a bad place to be stuck if you're going to be stuck somewhere during COVID. I will say that. Yeah, that's yeah. As by the way, he just showed a shot of the courtyard with the swimming pool, Sean. Just so you know.
Paz, life is good for you, brother.
Yeah, so life is good. My son just graduated grammar school yesterday in a new type of graduation ceremony drive-by. But life is good. Life is good. It could always be worse. Things are good and getting better. So I am wondering what kind of role play you guys have got me in for today. That's going to be a little nervous. I ain't gonna lie.
Well, you did a beautiful job.
I'm ready.
Okay, so here we go. So thank you, Tone. I think Kirk and Jennelle, I think you know the drill, but for the judges, we'll share it. Kirk and Jennelle will have the ability to make Tony be anybody they want. It could be a person that's an ecosystem merger opportunity, a potential person to donate to get a yes from about anything in the world, a book deal, a stage, whatever it is. That's up to Kirk. That's up to Jennelle. It's going to be broken into 2 3-minute conversations. The first conversation is to demonstrate the power and influence of integrity-based mirroring of what we're said. I see you, I hear you, what you say matters to me. So what you're assessing in round 1, the first 3 minutes, is the opening of listening, the opening of Tony's listening and putting something at stake for Tony, touching, said differently, on some pain in some way, authentically, in love, naturally, that's not manipulative, not sales trickery, not a deception, not looking for a close at the end, but how we connect and open up listening, right? In the middle, and these 2 sections are one conversation cut by a phone call, because it's gonna be like, hey, Tony, you got a phone call in about a minute. Yeah, okay, great. Got to jump for a minute, be right back. And then the second half will continue a little bit after that. But the responsibility of Kirk and Jennelle will not be to schedule something in the first portion, nor to share much about themselves. Maybe frame the conversation briefly, connect deeply with Tony, put something at stake. That's all you're judging in round 1, right? We'll talk more about round 2 later, which is about Jennelle and Kirk sharing who they are, and what they're seeking a yes to, and actually getting to that yes. They don't have to sell anything. It could be, the yes could also be just a more extended meeting. That's all. Okay. So Jennelle, well, this is interesting. We're in the same room, but the Real Raw is usually based in New Jersey, but we'll go with this. Kirk is further away because we're in the same building. So Kirk, is it a 1 or a 2 you think I have underneath the table?
Oh, it's a 2.
It is a 2. Kirk Adams, ladies and gentlemen. So do you want to go first in round 1 or second?
I will go second.
All right. And that means Jennelle will choose in the second round. So Jennelle, who would you like Tony to be?
Who would I like him to be?
Yeah, he could be himself or anybody you want. You set the scenario.
Got it. Okay. I guess I'd like him to be himself. I'm a little unclear on that. I apologize, but I'm happy.
Yeah.
I like.
So, let me support. So he can be himself. And would you, because you're going to build rapport, and then you're going to have in the second segment, the second 3 minutes, eventually you're going to ask for a yes. A yes to something. It could be anything you want to ask a yes to in the world. It could be a yes to a longer meeting. It could be yes to speaking. It could be a podcast. It could be a yes to a donation. It could be yes to anything that you're seeking in the world. So Tony could be himself, or he could be anybody that would be a relevant yes for you. So again, one more time, would you like Tony to be himself? And that's totally fine. People do that all the time.
I love authenticity and vulnerability, so I'm going to have him be him.
Great. Okay. So Tony, are you ready to be yourself?
Listen, I was born ready.
All right. So the first round, Jennelle, you're just creating rapport, maybe framing the conversation a bit, and putting something at stake with Tony that's going to be relevant to the second round and what you're going to be seeking a yes to. Does that make sense, Jennelle?
Yes.
Cool.
Yes.
And one last thing, do you know Tony? Do you not know Tony? And are you what's the stage? Are you over the phone or at an event? So you know him or not? And what's the context, a phone call or in person?
I don't know him, and I like in person, because even though we're not, I prefer in person. So right. I am in person.
Okay, cool. So you just don't know each other. Do you know of each other, or you don't even know of each other?
Maybe like what we said, like we looked familiar. We were maybe trying to connect the dots, but that's it.
Awesome. Okay. So Jennelle, you have 3 minutes. You'll hear the alarm start going off at about 2 minutes and 30 seconds. So you have 30 seconds from there. And please take us in.
All right. Hi, Tony. Such a pleasure to connect with you today.
Hey, Jennelle. Nice to see you.
And I'm so sorry. I did not catch where you were from. Could you remind me?
I am from New Jersey.
New Jersey. Okay. East Coast man. And I heard you mention, or absolutely, actually, I'm going to rewind. Do you have any children? You have any kids?
I do. I have one just is going to be 14. One just turned 16. 2 boys.
2 boys. Wow. That sounds like that's a lot of fun, dealing with all that testosterone and learning how to raise little boys into men. Tell me what that's like for you.
Well, it's about setting an example of how they need to show up in the world, not just for themselves, but for other people, and really teaching them some things that I didn't learn when I was younger, and giving them a better start, or giving them different perspectives and different ways of thinking.
And it's amazing. We need more men like you in the world that are raising their boys to be men, and to care about humanity and to care about women and respect them. Tell me a little bit more about what you didn't receive as a child. I'm just curious to know, what was that like growing up?
What was that like growing up? It wasn't very supportive.
Okay.
I grew up there was a lot of violence at home. So getting, I'm not going to say reprimanded, that's not a good word, but getting hit on a regular basis was commonplace, and not as a reprimand, but just because it was Monday or Tuesday.
Wow. I'm not sorry for you, because I can see you're a strong man, but I'm sad that you experienced those things. But I'm also just curious what that was like for you, and what is it that made you turn around to be such an amazing father, having someone who hits you, to going to raising these incredible boys the way you do. What did that for you?
Well, not wanting to, again, giving them what it was, giving them what I didn't have. It didn't have that I didn't feel that love and support, certainly not from my father growing up. And there's just a lot of verbal abuse, not very supportive at all, very limited in what could be done. Communication was terrible. Example of a relationship and a marriage was terrible. And I just and again, just mindset and the way the looking at the world, it just was not, let's just say I learned what not to do. I learned how.
You got a phone call in about 20 seconds?
Yeah, so I've got to go, but this is an intriguing conversation. Yeah, but it's basically about, I got to say that there was certainly things that I learned that were good growing up. I'm not going to say it was all bad. Unfortunately, that outweighed the good. But you know what? We all grow through what we go through, right? Or at least we have to.
I love that you took a pain and made it your greatest power and now your platform to teach your boys. So amazing. Thank you so much for connecting with me. I just appreciate your vulnerability.
Yeah, thanks. Sorry, I've got to take this call now, but
Don't be back in a few minutes.
I'll be back.
Perfect. Excellent job, Jennelle. How'd that feel for you?
You know what? It felt very natural. I love connecting with people and I love getting deep quick. So.
Yeah. And I think you got deep quick and you had a beautiful acknowledgement. So I think that was a really, really nice job. Tony, if you had one word for how that felt for you, the feeling of that encounter, what would the one word be? Like first word.
Not to be overused, but authentic. It was, I felt that she really cared. And
oh, awesome, brother. Much appreciate that. Kirk Adams,
Yeah.
How are you, sir?
Awesome.
All right. So are you ready?
I am.
What would you like would you like Tony to be Tony or somebody else?
Well, I would like Tony to be Tony, because I've been looking forward to meeting the real Tony, and I'd like it to be a phone call.
All right. Drop in, brother.
Tony, Kirk Adams,
hey, Kirk.
American Foundation for the Blind. We've been friends on Facebook for a while, and we've never talked, but I see you all over the Unblinded movement page, and I hear you on the huddles. I kind of lurk almost every day, but I'd really be curious. You're obviously an influencer in this space, and just be really curious on your journey, how you got to where you are, and really interested in how you do everything you do. What's your structure? What's your business model? How are you doing all this stuff?
That's a great question. You know, I will just correct one thing. We did meet briefly at the Unblinded event, at the Unblinded Christmas, Christmas dinner. We met briefly.
Okay. Well, you and 800 other people. So
exactly, there was so many people there. Yeah. So it was a great party, by the way. Sean Callagy, just saying, Callagy Law in the house.
Yep.
So how I came to be, I guess the long and the short of it, I immigrated to the U.S. when I was a kid, and this is so I immigrated here when I was a kid. It was tough growing up. It was a tough European household. I didn't feel safe at home very often, unfortunately, because of that. I just never knew when the hammer was coming down, so to speak. And it was just not what I would want for my kids. And at the age of about 16, I contemplated not being around anymore. We'll kind of leave it at that. And then on my 18th birthday, I had a black tunnel white light, life-altering experience after a massive car accident, thinking I died. And that was a life-altering moment for me. And basically, it was at that point that I decided if I was going to live tomorrow, I was going to die tomorrow, I'd live today. So I really started changing my life to live before I died, right? And what that led me to Tony Robbins maybe 10 years later, and also learned that life was not happening to me, but it was happening for me. And I got to learn and grow through that, and found forgiveness and found a way to grow through what I went through, right? To find the joy in the sadness, or find the good in the bad, and find the positive message in the negative situation. So that's really what the journey is. And I went through a lot of. So
you broke up for me a little bit. So how would you describe your business? What's your elevator speech on what your business is? I see your name a lot. I know you're really active, but I'm not certain I'm clear on what your business model is.
Long and short of it, I've been an entrepreneur for about 30 years. I've been in the real estate space for a very long time. I'm still involved with EXP, growing my company underneath that, below that, and still representing some clients. The big thing and my passion is I started a movement called Get Up and Grow, helping people grow what they go through. So I do one-on-one strategy sessions with people, as well as run masterminds. And it's really, the message is helping people grow through what they go through the pain, grow through the bad memories and bad things that they have, bad situations that they've been through, gone through, or going through, and find peace on the other side of that. Because it really is, we all need to grow through what we go through. Otherwise, we keep going through it, right? We keep making the same mistakes if we don't learn from the past. And sometimes we're not learning from the past because we're not looking for the lesson. We're not looking for the good in whatever happens. So it's important to.
You got a phone call in about 15 seconds.
So Kirk, listen, I've got to take a call in just a few seconds here. But I really appreciate the call, and we can pick this up again shortly.
Yeah, I look forward to learning more.
All right, thanks, Kirk.
Thank you.
Excellent work, Kirk. Very nice, sir. Very much beautifully in the formula. How did that feel for you?
For me, good.
Yeah.
I would like a few more minutes. Super interesting. Like to learn more.
Absolutely. And Tony, for yourself, you have one word, how that felt with Kirk?
It felt good. It's, I didn't have to really role play it. It's just what it is, right? So it was easy. So if it was comfortable.
Awesome. Okay, so we're going to go to our judges now to give an assessment for Jennelle and Kirk. And if we could, let's stick to about 30 to 40 seconds for each assessment. And the first 15 to 20 seconds on what you thought worked. And we want to be loving and kind for sure, but these are people up to big things in the world, Kirk and Jennelle, big things in the world. So the second 15 to 20 seconds might be equally important for any access point you have on what could have even enhanced how they were connecting with Tony. So let's start with, and you'll hear a buzzer go at the 30-second mark. And if you could, within 5 or 10 seconds, wrap up your feedback on that person, that'd be great. And Preston, let's begin with you, sir. What do you have for Jennelle?
Okay, so I loved that she was actually bonding through, can you hear me, by the way? You guys?
Yes.
Okay, cool. I love that she was bonding through pain and strength, and they were both survivors of very tough situations. Tony's violence, Jennelle's sex trafficking. I thought it was a great like I said, I thought it was very authentic, and I appreciated the connection. Do you want me to give like feedback and critique as well?
Yeah.
Okay. Can I just do both of them at the same time? Because I kind of contrasted.
Yeah, go ahead. Absolutely. So, so take about another minute or so, Preston, and combine, give them and scores.
I thought they were both great. Is it like a 1 to 10 score, by the way?
Yes, sir. Yeah.
Okay, so for Jennelle, I liked her bonding. For Kirk, I liked his bonding, and I'm big on simplicity. So I wanted to compliment the simplicity of the way he just got Tony talking. He showed up with admiration, and he showed up with that, and he let Tony talk, which I thought Tony went really deep there and shared a lot. So that was good. Gosh, I mean, if I have to rate him, I'm going to give like Jennelle 9.5, but I'm going to give Kirk maybe a 9.8 just on the simplicity, because I loved that.
Awesome. You gave Kirk, I'm sorry, what'd you give Kirk?
9.8, like
Wow.
just because he was so simple, like getting Tony to flow. I mean, he just got Tony to step in and tell his story and share everything. I thought they both did amazing, but I loved the share giving that Tony was willing to just come out and be very genuine and authentic with when just asked a question through pure admiration.
Beautiful feedback, Preston. Thank you, brother. Liran, what do you have?
Yeah, so I'll also kind of compare and contrast a little bit. I thought they both did a good job of building rapport. Jennelle kind of went in deeper, faster, quicker, I thought, to kind of build and go in one direction in a more serious way. And then I thought Kirk kind of went a little bit lighter to develop that rapport. So they both made it about him, give him the opportunity to talk. To build that connection. I thought, that maybe because of the limited time, that in a maybe more natural setting, it might take you a few more minutes to get into like your childhood and like abuse or things like that. So like naturally, you might want to start a little bit lighter before getting that deep. But I thought they both did a good job and seemed like they were genuinely interested in learning about him.
Awesome. And what'd you have for a score on a 10-point scale?
I give them both a 10.
Oh, you're so
All right, Liran put 10s on the board.
There you
10s
go.
are rare, raw, beautiful. And I have to listen. I have to concur that Jennelle and Kirk did a really beautiful job of what the first section was about. It was about connecting, opening up the listening. Tony went deep. There were things at stake. So that was the outcome, and that was really beautifully achieved. I'm interested in getting a little feedback from Tony in a minute after we go to pause on one question I have for Tony that would be an interesting access point, I think. And as we think of the 4 steps, 10 indispensable elements, and 4 energies of influence, as we talk about them here at Unblinded. And Tony, what I want you to begin to think about is what energies you felt. I'm not going to ask you yet. I'm going to ask you at the pause. What energies you felt from Kirk and Jennelle. Fun, aspirational, goddess, Zeus, right? And how much variance in their questioning, and we'll come to that in a minute. But pause, what did you have? Thank you very much, Liran. Thank you.
Okay, so I'm gonna keep it short and sweet. First of all, I love the way like it's 2 different approaches. Every one of them, by the way, I will just go straight to the scoring. I think it's both a 10 because they did such an amazing job building that rapport. I love that Jennelle asked him about his like, do you have kids? I really love that because she like went straight into his heart. And Kirk, I really love when he just started, like at the beginning of the call, he complimented him and took a lot of genuine interest in Tony. And I love when Kirk asked him, how you describe your business? I think this is a great question to build rapport because, you know, every business owner loves to talk about how he started his business and how he described his business. So I really love that. I thought that was amazing, great question. And also one more for Jennelle. I wrote this question. She said, what you didn't receive as a child? Like this is very, very deep. So I love both of you guys, both approaches. I think it was amazing. And it's a 10 for both of you. Because I would like to talk more with Jennelle and with Kirk, like the same level. Like it's a 10 for both of you. And by the way, I want to talk to you later. So you got
Awesome.
me. Yeah.
please, I would love.
Amazing.
Awesome. Thank you, Paz. So
Yep.
Tony, because we're running a little behind because we had a lot of discussions on larger social issues and dynamics, which is what we do here, right? We're here to co-create making the world a greater place. And maybe we did a little bit towards that today. So Tony, just really quickly though, if you were to say the energies you felt, and just please list them: fun, aspirational, goddess, Zeus. Those 4. Which of those 4 energies did you feel from Jennelle? If like any one, it could be 0 to 4, but which ones?
Oh, I think he's muted.
Yeah, Tony, you're muted.
All right, it's like it's my first time here. So I certainly felt the goddess energy, and from her primarily because it's where she went. There was even a little bit of Zeus because it was asking the question with certainty and strength.
Yeah.
And the reality of it, Kirk was the same way. Those were really the 2. And, you know, Kirk had a little bit of aspiration because it says, how are you doing what you're doing? So it made me think about the future, but masterfully done, by the way, both of you, to echo the other judges, but Jennelle tying it into the kids and what, you know, didn't I get? Wow. Powerful.
Yeah. So thank you, Tony. That's exactly what I thought you were going to say. So as we're emotional rapport building, that was such a beautiful job. And Jennelle, I want to, we could talk about this topic for about like 10 hours. You know, the dynamic of the balancing of goddess and Zeus energy, how not only racial bias, but gender bias and power dynamics exist in our society. So how do we approach things? And I thought, Jennelle, what I want to applaud you on is, you know, you're communicating in a wildly complex space, a wildly energetically complex space. And what felt right to me, this is, you know, there's art and science here, right? The art of the science felt very right, how you balance your Zeus energy and being in your heart and those energies. So I thought that really worked. So great job on that. And I would say for both of you, aspirationally, there's always the thought of where the thought is, where are we taking Tony? So the depth we got to is beautiful. What could be, and if we had more time, right? But even if we got there in the time we had, what could be a beautiful access point would be like, hey, Tony, I mean, you overcame these things. You're talking about growing through what you go through. If you had it all your way, like everything comes out the way you want, where does all of this end up in the world? Like, where do you end up? Just taking him to that aspirationally higher place. So you took him to opened his heart and soul. You made him feel heard, seen, and validated deeply. And maybe just asking that one question of like, where does this ultimately go? Not like, where does it go in a year? Like, ultimately taking him to that beautiful place into the future. So just a little bit of an access, but my goodness, what a great job. 10s are super rare here, and 10s were like all over the board in round 1. Congratulations, Jennelle and Kirk. And we're ready for round 2, because round 2 is where it gets interesting. Very many people don't do nearly the job that Kirk and Jennelle did in round 1, but the job isn't finished, right? Tony feels heard, connected to, validated. He got to speak his heart and soul. What becomes really interesting, though, is what we do with that, because that's a beautiful privilege to connect that deeply with a human. And there's an outcome. There's an outcome that's in Tony's best interest and Kirk and Jennelle's. How do we get there? How do they now share who they are and what the yes they're seeking? That's where things can get really complex, and all the beautiful emotional rapport building could either end up going nowhere or somewhere, because so many of us have so much complexity emotionally around asking for something, putting something at stake. So round 2 is so critically important to make all these work. And in round 2, Jennelle, it's your choice to go first or second.
I want to go second.
All right. Excellent, Jennelle. Kirk, are you ready, my friend?
Sure.
Okay, judges, we're assessing how effectively Kirk now shares who he is, his mission, what he's up to, and asks for whatever he's going to ask for as a yes. So, Mr. Kirk Adams, 3 minutes, please drop in.
Great. So, Tony, glad we could reconnect, and it was great hearing about what you're up to in the world and what your why is. It's always inspirational to hear such sincere thoughts from people who are really doing it, or implementing what they believe in. So, what I'm all about is really thinking about blind individuals, because that's my lens, and how do blind people live their lives fully, live the lives they want. And really, I'm focused on employment. I became blind when I was 5, went to school for blind kids in public school, and fought my way through sink or swim, and I had to swim really hard, and I was able to be successful academically and develop a career and buy a house and get married and have kids. But 7 out of 10 blind kids are not going to have that experience, because 7 out of 10 blind adults are not working, and that means they're living on a Social Security disability income check, which is poverty. And a third of blind people live in poverty and food insecurity, and home ownership is 1/10 of the general population. So I had a set of circumstances and some grit and resilience that have allowed me to fight the odds. And I don't want other blind kids to have to fight the odds. So what I'm really trying to do is scale the concept that blind people are capable, have amazing characteristics that can make us extremely valuable employees, because living every day as a blind person lets us develop grit and resilience and creative problem solving skills. And my job is really to change the way the world sees blindness, and change the way employers in particular see blindness. So in Unblinded, we influencers influencing influencers. And I see you're very well connected and networked, and you're merging ecosystems all the time. So I would like to invite you to meet me some afternoon in Chelsea, and I'll invite Sean, and we'll go to the Google headquarters in Chelsea Market, and we'll have lunch with Jack Chen. He is a computer scientist, a patent attorney. He's blind. He's general counsel for Google Chrome products. And within 2 blocks of his office is a guy named Doug Maxwell, who's blind, who has a recording studio. A sound engineer will invite him. And 2 blocks the other way is a guy named Joe Danowski, who owns an equity research firm. He's totally blind. And you'll just have lunch with 4 successful blind guys, and we'll talk about how we do what we do. So how does that sound?
Sounds great. Fascinating. I'm always looking to meet and speak with interesting, fascinating individuals. And again, the movement of Get Up and Grow, oddly enough, is really about highlighting people who have not just survived, but have thrived despite their circumstances. Despite the struggles, despite having the odds stacked against them. Listen, I've got the hair on my arms is standing up because your definition of that, as is Sean, I've told him this before. You guys are, inspirational, and to me and to so many, because you've been able to achieve, and like I said, survive, not just survive, but thrive despite what some people see as something that is an absolute game stopper. So it'd be my pleasure to come out and join you and Sean and Doug and Joe. And
sounds like fun.
Awesome. Yeah. Tony, thank you. Kirk, beautiful job, brother. Tony, if you had one word for that encounter, what would it be? It felt how? How did it feel?
It felt good, educational. I felt his heart.
Awesome. Okay, fantastic. Jennelle, are you ready?
Yes, absolutely.
All right, let's go get it.
Ready now?
No?
Yes.
Yeah, go.
Tony, thanks so much for sharing your heart. It was just a privilege to hear a little bit about you and your journey to fatherhood and why you're so passionate about what you do. I was just curious, do you know what the average age that a kid sees porn, that a child sees porn?
I don't know. I'd imagine it'd have to be probably around 10 or 11.
It's around 10 or 11. And most of the porn they see is actually unwanted. So it's about 70%. They're pop-ups and things that they didn't even go looking for. And did you also know that about that same number, around 60 to 70% of kids that are sexually active between the ages of 14 to 90% say that they learned about sex through porn?
Yeah.
Pretty good. They didn't learn from parents, churches, or schools, but they learned through porn. And unfortunately, the porn that's trending today is very violent porn that degrades women. That's just things are so unspeakable. I don't even want to go into it. But so this is just a little bit of the issues that the work that I do, both in my for-profit and nonprofit, address. So I like to say that I'm changing the narrative around sexuality, how we perceive it, how we talk about it, how we educate our children about it. And also in my nonprofit work, really holistically rehabilitating victims of sex trafficking. So the two actually complement each other. So the nonprofit, the for-profit world is really what I'm interested in, talking with you a little bit more about is like you obviously you have 2 sons that you're raising into incredible men. And I think it's just a crucial component that we adequately are preparing our men to go into the world and to be these leaders and to fully respect women. And so the work that I do helps men and women really shake the shame around their sexuality while helping them to reconnect to it in a healthy, empowered way. And I'm not sure if you've ever experienced any kind of shame around sex or sexuality or anything, or felt, you couldn't fully connect maybe with partners or with your wife, or I think some of us on all level have gone through something. I'm just curious if that's been something that you've experienced before.
Sure. At one point or another, there's always that blockage or that there's been a blockage, or there's been something that, makes you, think about that.
Yes. And even in the way you said it, and not disrespecting how you said it at all, but that, even saying it, sex and intimacy and relationships, it's become a part of like dogma program, things that we felt ashamed about. So I would love to, I know you have a platform to possibly be a guest on your show and really show up and tell parents how we can educate their children better, and how we can really protect them from being another victim of human trafficking by really empowering them to have this healthy view of sex and sexuality. So this is the work I do. It's not the fun work, and it's very taboo, but I think it's something that is a must and if we want to really save our children today.
I agree that, we need to talk about
15, we have 15 seconds. Tony, got to grab that call in 15 seconds.
I grab a call, but to your point, I think that we need to have the conversations about the things that are taboo, because when we don't communicate and we don't talk, then things just get worse and the hole gets deeper and darker. So I'd love to talk about having you on as a guest and explore this further.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I love what you said is survivor to thriving. That's exactly what we do in my nonprofit. In fact, that's our catchphrase too. We take survivors to thrivers. And so I just love that we have that commonality and really taking your greatest trauma and turning it into your greatest triumph. So I'm just honored to be able to have that opportunity to speak with you more on this.
Awesome. Looking forward to it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jennelle. Jennelle, how'd that feel for you?
It's, you know what, that part's harder for me. I'm not gonna lie. It's a little bit like, because I never know how to lead with it, because it's and I was trying to hit his pain points, like with his kids, and address that issue. But it's really tough for me to kind of sell that. In both my nonprofit and my for-profit, because there's such taboo issues that nobody wants to talk about. So that's just being honest.
So beautiful job. And we'll get to the judges in a moment. But here, quick access point, just come from your heart. Like, the truth, like, your truth is that there needs to be a different discussion around sexuality. That is your truth, correct?
Correct.
Because you believe you're solving for big problems in the world by doing that, right?
Yes, absolutely.
So what happens is we can get in our own, I thought you did beautifully, by the way, but what could happen in another conversation is we could get in our head. You could get in your head. We all get in our head around asking and what are they thinking? Just come from your heart. After you've established rapport like that, it's coming from your heart about that, and then checking in on where they are, and then communicating with them through there. So it's not your job to dance around those complex dynamics. It's your job to share from your heart at step 3 into the pain, like your heroic, unique identity, which you did. And then you ask and you sense where somebody is. And Tony was really comfortable and felt great about it. So if he wasn't, there's what you do from there. So go from your heart, only start to be present to the time to be truly present to where things are landing for the other person is as you're experiencing it. Don't pre-frame it in your head that it could be something. Just experience Tony and that other person where they are. And I thought you did a fantastic job.
Thank you so much, Sean. I appreciate the feedback.
Yeah, awesome. So Liran, what do you have, sir?
So, I think they ultimately got Tony to give a yes. I thought Kirk didn't interact as much back and forth with him a little bit. It was a lot of talking until he got Tony to get to the yes. I thought, but still got him to get to the yes, and made kind of like an offer that he thought would be interested to Tony, which is to meet new people and meet people that are successful and get to kind of interact. So he made him an offer that was that he thought would be beneficial. So I thought that was good. I thought Jennelle did a better job at sort of like a little back and forth and interaction during the discussion. The only critique I would say is that once he said yes, she said thank you and kept talking. And I've always learned to, like, once a person says yes, just shut up and say thank you and close the deal.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. And so what do you have for scores, Liran?
So I would give them both an 8.
Okay. Excellent job, sir. Yeah, it gets a little bit more complex as we shift into talking about ourselves and agreement formation, but excellent. Great feedback, Liran. Paz, what do you have?
Okay, yes. So I loved both of you guys, of course, and I love the structure that Kirk started the conversation. Actually, both of the structures of both of the conversation were amazing, because like Kirk really got him back on like what they were talking about earlier, and immediately started telling his personal story, and he's really inspired me. Like, you know, there is a lot of difference between motivation and inspiration, and Kirk really inspired me. Like I really felt him, you know, and I love the way that he said that 7 out of 10 blind people, you know, didn't really make it like he does, like he did. And I really, really love that. He really got me to wanna be associated with him in any way, like whatever he wants to sell, I will take it. So, cause I love the mindset. His mindset is amazing, and I just wanted to commend him on that and say that I think he did a great and amazing job. Jennelle, I also love the structure of the call. I really love that you are very emotional. You get right into a person's heart. It's amazing. And I understand, I felt a little bit that you had a little bit of hard time closing, because again, it's a sensitive subject, and I get it, but I think that what you're doing is like, you're like an angel, you know, like everybody needs you. So if you're not selling to someone, you're giving them a disservice. So this is like from a personal thing that I want to say to you, that like you need to close people, even if it's for your nonprofit. Like you said to Tony, that you have a nonprofit. And by the way, I love to work with people that have nonprofit organizations, because it shows me about their inner being, like who they are. And like, it's not about the money. I know that all of the coaches here and will watch it. If you're a coach, you don't do this for the money. You want to help people, like Tony is doing, and he's doing an amazing work. So Jennelle, I really, really loved that at the end you talked about to save the children. Again, you hit a really deep emotional point for all of us, and I know that Tony have kids, so especially when you have kids and someone talks about like save the children, it's like boom, right inside your heart. So I love that, and I will give you both a 9.5 because equally
Beautiful.
you touched me, and just love you. So yeah,
Thank you. Beautiful. And Preston, taking us home, brother. What do you got?
All right, so it was actually really hard, and I probably need to disclose that I know Jennelle pretty well, and so I'm working hard to remove any biases. I'm going to kind of speak straight from what I analyzed, not from how I felt, and on all of it, even though I had both. So I loved Kirk. He was coming from the inspiration point. He had a lot of heart, a lot of passion, a lot of love, and it was build somebody up. Let me show you how we have and how we can and how we can grow. There was not a ton of interaction, but I also don't know that it was needed, because it was quick. It influenced, and it worked. He got the yes. He said who he was, and Tony and him were aligned with the same mission. So I mean, I'd give that a 9 out of 10 right off the bat for Kirk. I mean, Tony ended with fascinated. Jennelle, and here's where I kind of have my own issues, because I always want to give her like a 15 out of 10 because I just love Jennelle. She was a little more forced and not as much heart, but I also know that area because I worked closely with Jennelle, and that's one of those areas where you're not just aligning with your own self-worth, you've had everyone destroying your self-worth. So it's not just you attacking you, it's others showing you why you may not be worth as much as God made you to be. And so I think some of that has to be forced. I don't know that you can come. So I think that's very tough, what she had to enter into. She did have a lot of good interaction. She hit the pain. I'd love to see adding some of the inspiration and some of the lift up and what we can do. So just for a note on improvement, but I'm and I may be biased. I'm a 9.5 on Jennelle.
All right, Preston, brother, Liran, Paz, great job as judges. Thank you for that. Kirk, Jennelle, thank you for your vulnerability and for being here. And just, quickly, because I know we've run over, thank you everybody for your patience and time. And thank you, of course, Tony, for doing a brilliant job as a role player, Vivian and Fernando for launching us. Fantastic work. Jennelle, just last 20 seconds. How was this experience for you?
It's been amazing, because it shows me like I sometimes shy away from my story because I feel like, oh, I don't want people to feel like I'm just sobbing. I was, but I feel like I could have added that inspiration, like Preston said, and say, listen, I'm the percent of victims that get out alive. Look at what I've done with my life. I've now reached, several 100,000 people with my message in just a short amount of time. And we've worked with upwards of 100 victims so far. Like, I could have said that might have been more influential. And then it showed me just the thing. Preston hit it on the nail. I still have these issues like, okay, who am I to be telling to the amazing group of men that are all successful? And so it shows me the work I still need to work through. So I loved it.
Beautiful job, Jennelle. Thank you. And Kirk, what say you, brother? How was this experience for you?
Oh, just great to be part of the community. Meeting you, Jennelle, is wonderful. I looked at your Facebook page and I see I already liked it, and we're friends on Facebook. So I guess we need to really become friends now. So I look forward to talking to you.
Absolutely.
And Jennelle, I will tell you this, that if you remember from the Unblinded immersion, there was, and this is the final words I will say for today, because influence is a superpower. Kirk and you are up to huge things in the world. Congratulations on your hearts and your missions. And Jennelle, there was only one takeaway that we had as the chant of the Unblinded immersion. And Jennelle, do you know what that was?
No, what was it?
Kirk is sexy. Kirk is sexy. So Kirk was on stage and we're chanting Kirk is sexy. Kirk Adams, love you, brother. Have a great day, everybody.
Now that's disruption.
That's great.